That sometime in November, details to be advised. So with that, adoption of the agenda will be in order.
Move. Second.
Adoption, all those in favor? Motion's carried. We have a delegation this evening, Maria Lockley from BC Transit. Welcome, and you can take the podium now.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Lockley. I'm from BC Transit. I'm the Senior Transit Planner responsible for the Comox Valley Transit Service. I work in Victoria and I work with the CBRD transit staff and the staff here in Comox and also the staff in Courtenay and Cumberland in developing the planning solutions, both strategically and more action type solutions on the ground for transit as we're moving forward. So the purpose of today's meeting is to give you some information and hopefully some feedback from you on this information. I'm going to give you some, basically some background on the, just a very brief background on the 2014 Comox Valley Transit Future Plan, which we did present to this council back prior to seeking endorsement of the finalised plan. We're also going to let you know what is the Frequent Transit Corridor Study, what does it mean, what are the corridor options that we're actually looking at in this study, and having a look at the preferred transit exchange locations and how that future implementation might roll out from this study. So if you have memory back to 2014, we did an extensive amount of work with stakeholders and the community here looking at a 25-year transit future plan. So we looked at the transit system now, and we looked at the population, we looked at the official community plans, we looked at the regional growth plan, we looked at basically where we would be in 25 years as an action plan for transit within the town of Comox, the city of Courtenay, and the village of Cumberland. So the priorities of the Transit Future Plan actually reflect the desires of all the public here and the stakeholders. We did a lot of consultation around this. We actually took on 2 phases of public engagement. We looked at basically looking at Transit Future bus events. We had stakeholder workshops, we had driver workshops, we had an elected officials forum, which you may have taken part in. And essentially the short-term priorities, which are the 5-year priorities that popped out of the plan report, they basically reflect the desires of the public and the stakeholders that we spoke to, and the enormous amount of feedback that we had. I think up until recently, Comox Valley held one of the records for the most attendance at one of the Transit Future Plan events. So there was a lot of interest in the community for transit. The Transit Future Plan looked at a future network plan that looked at a frequent transit network, which is the blue line on the map there, connecting the key centres of Cumberland, Drunkard Mall, Anfield Centre, downtown Courtenay, North Island College, and the Comox Valley Hospital and downtown Comox. These are the key activity centres that people want to move to, so basically the transit system aligns with those. It also maintains the local transit network, which is looking at the feeder routes, which are the green routes there. Those lines are the existing green lines of all the routes that we currently run. So it's looking at how we would transform those routes if the blue line was switched on as a frequent regular service that ran through those centres. So switching on the blue line and developing the frequent transit corridor would be done in coordination with realignment of the local services, particularly here within the town of Comox. Apologise, my voice is a little bit croaky this afternoon. So essentially, we now have a Transit Future Action Plan. We no longer we have the strategic plan that lays the platform for us, but now we just need to start putting some actions on the ground around that. One of the plan's directives was to conduct an actual corridor study. The Transit Future Planning process enabled us to take a very high visionary look at what we could do. We spoke to the public. But getting in and looking at the technical approach to what we would do in the planning is something that we needed more time to do. So we wanted to develop the plan, and then we went offline, and we've been working with Watt Consulting Group, who previously were called Boulevard Consulting Group, so you would be familiar with that consulting firm. They've got a great reputation. They know the area very, very well, and they know what we were looking to do. So the study commenced in February 2016, and we're working closely with all municipal staff from all of the areas. So this is Comox Valley Regional District's action plan. It's the staff action plan, it's the engineers, the planners. It's looking at what's the reality of making this happen on the ground. The key deliverables of the study is a technical memorandum which has been completed, and that essentially summarises the results of all the preliminary corridor assessment, understanding the existing conditions and the opportunities and constraints. So from a real transport perspective, what we're looking at. The final study is due in November, and it will include basically where we'll look at it from all angles of community benefit, economic, social and financial, and how it actually operates on the ground. We've also have begun extensively the analysis of exchange locations for downtown Courtenay, downtown Comox, North Island College, Driftwood and Anfield Mall. The focus of my presentation to you today is going to be the impact to Comox. So the two corridor options the study is exploring, you can see there's the blue line and the green line, option 1 and option 2. We did look at some other options in doing this, one of which was running the corridor down along Comox Avenue, but the idea of the frequent transit route is to be as direct and frequent as possible, connecting as many key centres as we can and connecting to the greatest population bases we can connect to as well. Having a corridor does not mean that we will not run a local service down along Comox Ave, so we will be still maintaining a local service down in that area. So option 1, essentially, the corridor difference is option 1 runs along Fitzgerald and option 2 runs along Cliff. The success of the ultimate route is basically going to be as direct as possible, servicing the great amount of density, as I said. So at the moment, they're the two options that we're focusing on. With the terminus down, we're looking down here in Comox and how we would circulate buses at the end of this to get maximum travel time and the ability for people to be able to reach that route as well. The preferred exchange location that has come out of the study thus far is looking at a location in Port Augusta Road, just north of Comox Ave there. It has capacity for up to 4 platforms, opportunity for transfer between the frequent route and the other local routes as well that we're proposing in the future here and as part of the service changes. It's going to be approximately 75 metres to the rear entrance of the Comox Centre Mall, and they would have the option of also alighting on Comox Ave or at the proposed Augusta terminus. And as I have said, local routes will continue using existing stops along Comox Ave or utilise Port Augusta platforms. Part of these service planning solutions that I'm looking at for Comox include developing an exchange solution where we can run more buses here more frequently, but also ensuring that the feeder routes are reaching those areas of the community that we may not reach at the moment. And we've heard a lot about Beaufort and making service happen down here on Beaufort for some of the seniors. So at the moment, I'm currently exploring some service options that we could deliver that service as part of the change as we move forward in the next, hopefully, 3 to 5 years to make that happen, if not sooner. This would be if we were to have the buses line up where the preferred location is discussing at the moment on the slides. The bus routing for both of the corridor options would be exactly the same. So essentially, the bus would run down to Stewart, it would run along Balmoral Ave, and then the buses could basically do their stopping and their terminus there along along the right-hand side of Port Augusta. We've had discussions, high-level discussions about the intersection of Port Augusta and Comox Avenue, and my apologies, it's Comox Road there. I only just realised that the other day that there's an error on there. This doesn't mean that the routing couldn't go the other way, in the opposite direction, and we could have the buses lining up on the right-hand side going in past the mall. What it does, it gives us a preferred location, and then we can work the more detail around that about how the buses would actually route and how we would work with the intersections and the opportunity to move the buses through those intersections. So we're having those discussions with staff at the moment about some of the challenges and some of the opportunities and what solutions we could put there to actually make this a reality. We have had initial early discussions with the study with the BIA and shared the study with the BIA to get their feedback from and the sense of the businesses in the area and how that would operate. We did receive some favourable comments back and some support, particularly because we wouldn't be looking at removing any parking and we wouldn't be basically stacking buses on Comox Ave, and it maintains that amenity of Comox Ave as the basically the shopping precinct, the service precinct within the town as well. The final study we're proposing to provide to the board in winter 2016, and obviously it's helping with the planning at the moment for the service changes and the infrastructure investments that we have to make. Final decisions and actual implementation of the elements of this plan will occur as the provincial and local government funding becomes available. We do have, in the moment, a placeholder for transit expansion in the whole of the area, which is developing this frequent transit corridor and the augmentation of the local routes to support that. And we'll continue working with both the staff from all of the municipalities in looking at funding opportunities that are on the horizon to build the exchanges and any other transit improvement projects. We know that there's a lot of interest in transit throughout the whole of the province. The federal government has given an indication that they're very interested in investing in transit. We're basically in a place with this type of technical type planning work where we can put forward proposals to say, can we package up something that looks attractive to make ourselves look better for funding in the near future. So thank you for your time. It is basically information to let you know what we're doing, and so that when it does finalise in winter, that there's no surprises and that we have got your feedback in the final document as well.
All right, question. Go ahead, Councillor Price.
One comment that comes to mind where you're looking at having the buses park, the side where the golf course is, we had just agreed that we weren't going to put a sidewalk on that side, so I would think that if you were going to go with that option, you probably need to, because it's a grass verge at the moment. So to take into account that.
Thank you. Just a comment back on that. So that would be part of the exchange development. So that would come under the exchange development in terms of how much sidewalk do you need, how much pavement do you need, and how would you put shelters along there, etc. So that would come into the detailed planning around that as well, and we would work with staff around that.
Councillor McKinnon.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Just a couple of questions here. You said you're going to, the goal is to keep the existing routes and to look at the increased service. The existing routes run, help me out if I'm wrong, your hourly service, basically throughout the entire community. How often would the frequent services run?
The goal of the frequent service is to run anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes in the peak, and then we're looking at 30 minutes on the shoulder and then 60 minutes for the non-peak periods in the day. That's optimal. When we introduce the frequent transit route, and if we're able to make some route changes prior to having expansion, then it may just run on the 30-minute cycle or the 60-minute cycle to make this a reality and happen. So the idea of frequent is that exactly that. In the peak when people need it, and your peak might be 8 to 9, or your peak might be 8 to 11, which we do know there's a double peak here in the whole of the valley where we run a commuter peak in the morning and then we run a shopping peak. We do have the services at the moment where we're recognising that ridership. So we have a very good collection here, we do have some great technology on 4 of the buses, and we're able to really see where that ridership is happening on what trips, etc. So we've been using that to develop the frequency at those times.
Second quick one, if I can, Your Worship, is at present, sometimes you hear concerns about empty buses running, and I understand there's talk to implement smaller vans, smaller buses on certain routes. Just if you can give a brief overview of that, how that would be implemented.
The good news is we're actually trying that right now. This Transit Future Plan became an action plan as soon as it was endorsed. So one of the first sets of planning that we undertook is we went in and we had a look at the fleet, and we tried to optimise the fleet to see if there was any opportunity in the current servicing levels to actually bring in some smaller buses, improve the optics where we're getting large buses running, and to see where we could run those, on what routes and what areas we could run those smaller buses on. So we are running those with some success at the moment. We are having some small minor hiccups with swapping buses out when we have maintenance problems, etc. But we will be continuing to look at future servicing and scheduling options that look at maintaining a ratio of some small buses with the larger buses in the fleet as well, but not all small buses, because we have some very large loads here, we have a lot of wheelchairs, we have a lot of mobility aids, and we need to be aware that we're not putting those small buses on those trips at those times and causing those capacity issues.
And the last one, if I can sneak it in, you mentioned about exchange stations and your contact with our staff here at the town. Have you been in contact with the new mall owners who by coincidence are here this evening as well? With your consultations.
Thank you. The purpose of the study is to look at the preferred locations and then go into that more detailed side of planning when we're looking at that. We were aware of the mall development proposal. We did provide some feedback on that proposal in terms of if this was something that was going to be the preferred location, then we would need to ensure that there was that pedestrian connectivity to that development in terms of where the door would be. Obviously, where the preferred location is at the moment, you would need to make sure there was good pedestrian access across Port Augusta, whereas the alternate side of the street means that we already have people lined up on the side of the street with the mall. So it's weighing up those options and those trade-offs and looking at that when you put it down onto the ground.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Swift?
Councillor McKinnon asked my question,
All right.
so thank you.
Councillor Margaret?
Hi. Thank you very much for your presentation. My concern is focused on the Comox seniors, and of course they're very anxious to have the service provider door. Is it possible for you to give me any more detail other than that which you provided in the presentation?
Ideally, I'd like, as a planner, I'd like to have that solution already happening on the ground, because I heard it from the time that we started the Transit Future Plan process. We are basically constrained by when we can do what we're doing with the services and making those changes. I have listed it as a priority to find a solution around that. We are looking at something in September 2017 in changing routes. We know we have a new hospital coming on board, and we know we need to get better transit service to the front door there. And we know that we have some other opportunities around making those service changes to develop service changes in the other local areas here, particularly in Comox as well. So my goal is to have this frequent transit corridor happen so I can augment the local routes around it and provide some sort of service option around that. And we're going to provide all the information for what that model would look like, what the cost would be, what the service hours around that would be, and then offer that as recommendations or offer that as options that can be considered by everyone, and what changes are we going to make and how we can make it happen. But at the moment we haven't, as I said, right now I'm doing it right now. The planning is happening right now.
Great, thank you very much.
No other questions? Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to minutes of meetings for approval, the council meeting minutes of September 21. Move. Approval, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Manager report for receipt.
Move receipt. Second.
Receipt, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Any questions arising in the manager report?
Just a comment, Walter is medical, I tested him.
Good. Down here.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, we had a brief chat at the economic development meeting last night about fixed wing search and rescue, and again, to the classification of rumor and speculation, decision potentially by the end of the year for the fixed wing search and rescue land and facility. So we'll see what happens.
Government potential decision.
That's right. Great. Okay, so we'll move on to regional district meeting minutes for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion's carried. The next item I'll ask Councilor Price to come forward. I have a conflict on that one, so I'll step out for a second.
So if we could have a motion to receive the report.
Second.
And all in favour of receipts? Any opposed? Carried. Any discussion on the report?
Should be contingent upon being invited to the party.
Well, we get the recommendation. So, hearing no further discussion, do you have a recommendation to permit
I'll move the recommendation.
I'll second that.
with your addition of invite?
No, we'll leave that out.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried.
Gotta get to the last of the year. You got a ring on your ear there.
It was denied.
Oh. It's no coincidence also my birthday that day, so. And also come over and have birthday drink if you did it for it.
Well, that's contingent upon us getting invited.
That's great. Okay, so we'll move on to the Port Augusta Comox Small Development Permit application. And staff provided a report. I understand our planner has a presentation, so it's coming up on screen, and welcome the planner to the podium.
You're in the way again.
Presentation on development permit application DP 1611, 215 Port Augusta Street, more commonly known as Comox Mall. The outline for the presentation is first location and land use context, quick application summary, and then focusing on development permit area 1 downtown Comox and compliance of the development application to those guidelines. Location, subject property, of course, is a large parcel, the largest parcel in the area designated in the official community plan as downtown Comox. It's abutted on the north side by Balmoral Avenue and the golf course. The golf course is also on its west side, and we have Comox Avenue to the south. Gives you a better idea of the parcel configuration. As noted before, it's within development area 1, downtown Comox, and the parcel is zone C4.1 core commercial, which is our standard downtown zoning. 3-story max, ground floor has to be commercial, and above that is either commercial or residential. The proposal is actually 3 parts. The first part is demolition, portion of the existing mall, expansion of the parking area into that area, and then opening up what is the internal corridor to the exterior parking lot. There are also extensive exterior modifications or upgrades along the southwest portion. This is north, this way. Southwest portion, south portion, and then the southeast portion of this area. The third part is the creation of a new commercial building in what is right now a parking area immediately above Comox Avenue. Development Area 1, purpose of DPA 1 is the revitalization of the commercial area. It also gets into promotion of energy and water conservation and reduction of greenhouse gases. Primary way that it does these things is really by a focus on street orientation of commercial development and pedestrian orientation, encouraging alternative forms of transportation. So the big focus is an existing mall. The upgrades will increase the pedestrian orientation of the existing mall, but it's still a car-oriented mall, so there is an improvement proposed in the development, but it is a car-oriented mall. The big focus of the guidelines in terms of full impact would be a new commercial building. So this is Comox Avenue, and this building would have a very strong pedestrian focus in terms of on Comox Avenue and the street orientation. This is the plan view. The doors for customers are all on the south side facing Comox Avenue. These doors up here are limited to service doors. Also has significant glazing on the south elevation. Look at this. The south elevation, this is Comox Avenue. You can see the nice active street frontage. The north side by no means is the back of the building. It still is inviting, but quite significant expense and design has been done on that north side to make sure people who are using the parking lot are still encouraged to utilize those businesses, not just the pedestrians. One challenge on the site is a significant grade change, and it's really more pronounced on the east elevation. So these are the two corners. So you can see the east elevation with a much more significant grade change than the west elevation. And so in terms of addressing that street orientation and the fact that it has a parking lot at the back, what we get is, yes, we do have stairs. You can see there's more stairs on the east corner, but between the stairs, there's softening through landscaping. And then we do have universal access from Comox Avenue. It's a ramping sidewalk going up there, both on the east side and the west side. And that also then gives universal access to people who are using the parking lot. And it's just coming in right in here. So it's able to get both people with disabilities to both access points into the building. With that, if there's any questions, I can answer.
Any questions from the planner? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mark. It looks like a great building and a wonderful addition to our town. My question is the timing of that commercial building. Is the intent to begin it right away, that standalone building?
My understanding is, yes, the applicant is here. The intent is to proceed with all aspects at the same time.
And it would be for stores?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Grant?
And this actually shows a net increase in parking.
Correct.
Not a decrease. Thank you.
Councillor Arnott?
Yeah, so the standalone building, that's 4 units in there, correct?
It's designed to have flexibility.
Right.
It could be 4, it could be 1. I think our expectation is it will be 4, and it'll be 4 smaller units. The total building size is roughly 4,900 square feet.
Right.
Thank you. Councillor Price?
Yes, and it certainly looks good, and it looks like there's going to be quite a lot more trees added to break up the car parking, is that correct?
There was an extensive, with the last development permit and sort of revisions in that area, there was extensive planting. There has been some die-off, and part of the outstanding conditions is replacement of the die-off that's in the parking lot area. So yeah, that will be rejuvenated as part of this, and then we do have quite a few improvements in terms of facilities within the new parking area where the existing building will be done.
And planting in that area. It looks like the green that's in there, is that?
If there is, yeah. So off the top of my head, I don't remember that design.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously need to give you a full landscape planning. I think there is significant landscaping that's going to be part of it, and that's obviously a very important component of what we develop.
Great.
Yes, is there, I may have missed it in the drawing, I didn't see the provision for the new commercial buildings for drive-through service. Is that something that could be looked at later, or it's not being entertained?
At this point, the zoning bylaw will not permit it.
Okay, Councillor Margaret, you're last.
One question and one comment. First of all, is there any provision for electric cars? Is that something that we would recommend for the mall, or?
It wasn't recommended in this round because we're looking at primarily the existing parking lot. There is an expansion, So often what we'll do is recommend electric parking in new developments. And so it's kind of a hybrid. And the choice was really to focus the efforts on street orientation of the new commercial building.
Okay, great. And my comment is, I was really happy to see that the new owner understands our downtown revitalization plan, and everything that he's done is reflected in this new design. And I really appreciate that, and I thank you for it. It's good news. Thank you.
Any further? Seeing none, so we have a recommendation from staff that the permit be issued upon resolution of the outstanding items and subject to the conditions listed in this report.
I'll move that.
Second.
Any discussion further? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, planner, and good luck, Mr. McRae.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to the development variance permit for Forester Avenue.
And I have a conflict in my property back onto
Right.
this one.
Okay. So we have staff report and a recommendation.
I'll move the recommendation.
Any discussion on the recommendation? Go ahead, Councilor Wood.
I just have a question. I support this, but I'm just wondering, the setback, he still would leave, is still 4 meters from the property line?
Just scrolling, sorry.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Yes is the answer, but
He's still drooling over the mall.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering about the roof line. Does that include the edge of the roof line?
There is an automatic allowance for projections into a rear yard for roof line, so typically like a 2-foot projection allowance for gutters and roofs is allowed as a general provision in our zoning bylaw.
So it could be then 2 meters closer to the property line?
2 feet, so
2 feet.
0.6.
Oh, okay.
The plans, such as they are, don't show that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
any further? Councilor Martin.
Just a quick comment. Of course, driving along Forester and enjoying that lovely street, I had the opportunity to speak to one of the neighbors, as it turned out, and mention what was happening. He wasn't aware, but he was all in favor. He felt that it was a good thing to just pass it on.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Councilor Price, back.
I know we are.
All right.
All right, so we're on to correspondence. A letter from the Comox Valley Social Planning Society requesting a council member to be appointed to them. Move receipt of the letter.
Move receipt.
Second.
Receipt.
Comment on that if I could.
We'll receive it first. All those in favor of receipt? Motion's carried. Councilor McKinnon.
Well, just so the rest of council is aware that I attend these meetings by choice anyway. And my understanding is that one of the other municipalities doesn't regularly send a council member, and I believe this letter is trying to encourage that they send a representative. So regardless of how council votes, is that I would still be prepared to go on a volunteer basis.
Okay. Councilor Rapp.
Well, I like that system a lot better than sending a official representative. If you're going anyway, I think you can report back if there's anything to know. And I mean, we spent a lot of time over the years trying to weed through some of these things and pare back some of the duties that the council has. And if you're going anyway, you can report back, then I don't really see the need to formally send someone to these.
Yep. Unless council wishes to appoint somebody, that would be the case. Anybody, any takers?
I was still getting over this television.
Where you still go? You bought your vest there, didn't you? It was there.
They gave it to me.
All right. Move on then to the letter of thanks from the BIA.
Move receipt.
Second.
Received and all's in favor? Motion's carried.
And do we pass the comments on to staff?
Yes, of course we will. Yes, go ahead.
Last council meeting too.
Letter from Minister of Transportation regarding the new stop of interest signs for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Receipt then, all's in favor? Motion's carried. So, yeah, this came up in our discussions at UBCM with Mr. Stone, and we gave some information on that. If there's any interest locally in that, there's a nomination period up to the end of January. And I take it it's not limited per se to highways. So, it could be on our side roads or what have you. I gave the minister one of our town pins he was collecting them, and he asked what it was about. I told him it was HMS Grappler and all that. Told him the story about them throwing cows overboard and stuff like that. He said, that could be a stop of interest. That's the estuary.
So, could a stop of interest be the Philberg property? Or is it a sort of more a landscape stop?
We could certainly look into it. I'm not sure. Staff can maybe see what's out there and see what the criteria are. There's obviously an engagement website there. So good suggestion.
Is there a timeline on these suggestions, or we?
The nomination period is to the end of January. So if you have suggestions, I guess the best thing to do is bring forward to staff to look at it. If they qualify, then presumably they can fill out the application and perhaps bring it back to us if needed.
And
Yes.
would that be open to the public to?
It is open to the public already. Yes. Okay. This is fully open. It's nothing. Maybe we can add a link on it to our website. But this is a province-wide engagement thing. Yeah.
Would that be advertised locally to?
We can put it on our website.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? No. Move on. Another letter of thanks from email thanks from Karen Kratz.
Move receipt.
Second.
And received then. All's in favor? Motion's carried. So taking the work on Rob, phase 1 is all buttoned up.
Yes, I believe they had received, they may be doing some touch-up on landscaping, but essentially the main physical works are complete.
The one at Point Homes is complete, but first landscaping next month.
You're going to wait for the landscaping, yes, until the spring,
Okay.
but they will be hydro seeding a portion of the bike path this fall.
Great.
Can I ask a quick question about the Lazo one? With the gravel walkway, and the whole thing looks great. I'm just wondering, like with heavy rains in the winter, do you expect any runoff that will cause some of that gravel to break down a little bit, or are they looking at some kind of sealant coat on the top?
They're looking at hydro seeding the slope.
Oh, they are.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Which will stabilize it. But after
Yeah.
we had a significant rainstorm over the weekend,
Yeah.
and essentially there was really no sign of any erosion
Okay.
on that pathway
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it
should
looks
be-
great.
The landscaping should tie it all together in terms
Yeah.
of keeping it in place as well.
Okay.
And
So, yes.
with the hydro seeding, do we have any choices? Can we go from natural grasses, or is it basically one formula?
They are on the slope that you see from the roadside. It will be a mixture. I think Shelley used the words that were more ocean grasses to me. It's a mixture of different grasses. So yes, we can pick, and I believe we've worked with the biologist in terms of something that would be appropriate for that area.
Thank you.
Okay. So no late items or further delegations. Reports from members of council. We'll start with Councillor Kendrick.
Here's a change of order. I attended the volunteer sign appreciation night and gave out a bunch of certificates to those that donated to the sign, and there was a photo op out there. We all went out in Kevin East bus from Ambassador and got our pictures taken there. One of them was in the newspaper the other day, and also there was a tourism marketing event that night, so I attended that as well. I also attended the economic development meeting to tell them all this ongoings of the sign, so that is now over. Sports Center took a Sports Center tour yesterday, and I was on behalf of the regional district to sign the critical incident protocol as vice chair. And that was my week.
Councilor Arnott.
Yeah, this Saturday morning, rainy Saturday morning, we, along with Councillor McKinnon and Swift, attended coffee with council at Comox Mall. Had a few diehards come by and chat with us. It was good, thanks to Councillor McKinnon and John from Independent Groceries for helping set it up. And again, I attended the signing protocol at the First Nations there on Friday night.
Councilor Swift.
Okay, since I last reported out, I attended along with Councillor Margaret the Council of Senior Citizens Organizations Conference in Richmond. It took place over 2 days. The topic was aging well, so we thought it was a good fit. And the sessions included presentations on health, housing, transportation, and there was lots of really good information there. The good news is that 93% of us will live our lives, throughout our lives, independently. So I took that as an optimistic sign.
I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, well, anyways. So I also attended the ceremony at the Big House, and with such great participation from so many community services. I attended coffee with council at the mall, and a few people dropped by to comment on the Lorne Hotel project, and one person had some questions regarding recycling and what really happens to that stuff. So it's an opportunity maybe for the solid waste management people to do some promotion in the newspaper. I think would be a good idea. I attended the regular Philbert board meeting, and they were generally quite pleased with the festival. Attendance was down from the previous year, but the vendors were pleased as their sales were up. So that's an interesting dilemma for them. They're continuing to look at ways of keeping the festival a destination for that weekend. So I don't know, we'll maybe see some changes in the coming years. And lastly, I attended the presentations of vital signs yesterday at the rec center, and they handed out a booklet that contains the findings, which are also available online, and I see Councillor McKinnon has some. But this is a great booklet, tons of information and easy to read. So I would recommend you taking one and having one. And that's my report.
And they will be coming to do a presentation.
Yeah.
I actually got copies for everybody today. If you want, so I'll just pass them.
There's one on circulation if you want to hand those out. But, or as it is in the world of technology, it's online.
You bet.
Still got his papers.
Councilor Price.
Yes, well, I attended the Comox Archives and Museum meeting. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in getting the federal grant for the 150th celebration. So we are going to look to the Community Foundation who are also offering those grants. And we are going to have an open house on Remembrance Day after the ceremonies with light refreshments and an invitation to the public to come and see the 102nd Battalion display, which grows all the time. We keep bringing things in. I toured the Sports Centre, Paul Nice Arena, and Councillor Grant yesterday, and it's in great shape to say its age, and seems to be well maintained and planned for. Main activities between council meetings was my attendance at UBCM. I think it was one of the best conventions I've been to. I attended and helped facilitate the workshop on forest policy decision making, the case for greater community consultation, and it was a dynamic session with local government, industry and the province, and everyone expressing willingness to work together, and so I think we'll be moving ahead on that. Very well attended session, and over half the registered pre-conference delegates were in attendance. The mid-sized community forum focused on recruiting and retaining skilled workers and the advantages we have in our smaller communities in being more affordable and how to promote our communities. And also about local approaches to marijuana dispensaries and different communities' experiences. The keynote speaker in the opening of at the opening of the convention, Dr. Samantha Moore, the founder of War Child, she did a really touchingly and very inspiring presentation. Two quotes that resonated with me. If your message isn't being heard, change the message. And if the path is very difficult, you are doing the right thing. Struck a chord with me. I attended the Strong Communities Cabinet panel, which was a panel of 9 cabinet ministers, including Minister Peter Fassbender, Terry Lake and Michelle Stilwell, and it provided a great opportunity for delegates to interact directly with the provincial government. I facilitated the workshop Responding Safely to Relationship Violence, and it's based on bystanders do not intervene because they may lack the skills for safe intervention. So the Community Champions Toolkit was developed by the group of presenters, which provides awareness and information on recognizing signs of relationship violence, how to safely respond and support victims. And I got everyone a copy. But there's some really interesting things that, that suggestions that would be different from what you might think he would do. And then so we had the addresses by the Premier, Leader of the Opposition, Green Party Leader, who was Minister Fassbender. But I think it's the resolution session which is always the meat of the convention. And if anyone wants to know how a resolution fared on the floor, I've got my book here. And policing costs was discussed, and the Courtney resolution failed, but the one that said when we get to the threshold, maybe there should be some phasing in of policing costs, that passed. And so that hopefully that will happen in our lifetime of threshold. There was a lot of debate on old growth, on the AVICC resolution, which was brought to the floor by the membership and passed requesting UBCM action. It also was a great forum for meetings. On behalf of AVICC, I met with Minister Thompson to discuss the resolution on no more logging of old growth and Crown land. I also met with the Minister of Environment, Minister Pollock, to look for provincial staff support for AVICC's Special Committee on Solid Waste, and we also met with provincial environment staff on this issue. And also the table officers of AVICC had supper with representatives from Coast Forest Products to look at how we can work together. And the message of UBCM, Stronger Together, I think it was aptly titled, and it lived up to it with a full agenda.
All right, thank you. Councillor McKinnon.
Yes, Your Worship. I must say, after being acting mayor for a month, I'm tired. I'm wondering if there's a wardrobe allowance as well for next time. Briefly, some of the things I covered for the mayor.
I got a vest for you.
High price.
I attended the United Way breakfast kickoff campaign on Thursday, September 22nd, September 25th, the Kidney Foundation walk at Sims Park. Excellent turnout. I also attended the UBCM. Some of the workshops I attended, I'll mention different ones than you did, Barbara, but attended Tent City and Homelessness workshop, how city and province and community work together to solve an ugly PR and social situation. Also examples from how 3 different communities deal with affordable housing and homelessness. They were Camel River, Maple Ridge, and Kamloops. Attended a mid-sized community forum. You touched on that with recruitment to smaller centers for business professionals. Attended one which very disturbing and interesting, gang violence in our communities, and it was really focused towards smaller communities. We should all be aware and on our alert for that. Represented the mayor at the Municipal Insurance of BC AGM, and I heard addresses from the Green Party leader, NDP leader, and the Premier, and went to a provincial cabinet panel on strong communities, which was very good. On Friday, the 30th, along with some other councillors and the mayor, attended the Big House Signatories event. Coffee with councillors was mentioned. The questions that I heard were about affordable housing for those that are working and having difficulties finding affordable housing in Comox, Lorne property questions, and some development tax exemptions questions. Attended a homeless coalition meeting today, and finally the Comox Valley Vital Signs launch at the Rec Center, and I do have some copies here that I'm supposed to return, so not wasting paper. And finally, today I was at a Maple Lake Committee meeting in Cumberland earlier this afternoon. Finally, I'm going to stop talking now because it's our 37th wedding anniversary. If I don't get home soon, there may not be a 38th. Thank you very much. That's the end of my report.
Happy anniversary. Councilor Grant.
Yes, happy anniversary, and I'll make mine very, very brief. I too attended the signing protocol, and along with Councillor Swift, I learned how to age well.
Excellent. Well, it's showing already. The EBCM was certainly the focus of most of last week. A couple things I'll reference. Attended a couple of meetings, actually 4 different cabinet and minister meetings with the CAO, Minister Restad for Aboriginal Affairs, just updating him on our discussions ongoing with Comox First Nations. Minister Stone regarding active transportation in the greater Comox Peninsula area. The other 2 meetings involved the Minister of Technology, Mr. Burke, and some good suggestions from him as how we might promote that part of our growing economy here in the Comox Valley and in Comox Pacific. And then lastly, with Minister Terry Lake, Health Minister, really advocating on behalf of St. Joe's and their future rural task force. So that was well received. All those meetings were very productive. We also had a meeting with Community Services just to thank them about the boundary extension. Kudos again to passed on to Shore Restaurant. The CEO and I also attended the follow-up meeting on the Vancouver Island Integrated Major Crime Unit to see where they were at there. They're still figuring that one out and trying to come up with a price as to whether or not we will have to participate. That's an organization of Victoria principally, and they're trying to expand it across the island. What else? Attended the panel on strong economy and jobs, and on behalf of Island Coastal Economic Trust, asked Minister Bond about possible further funding for that. She didn't say no, she didn't say yes, but they are considering it, and given the current surplus that they're enjoying, they may be inclined to top that up this week. Natural gas, part of the resource breakfast series, natural gas breakfast was held the morning after the big LNG decision, so there's quite a buzz in the room that morning, not just because of the coffee, but Mr. Coleman was pretty bullish on that and future development of the LNG industry in Northeast BC, which also benefits Northwest BC, or sorry, Northwest Northeast. I think that's basically everything else that's been covered at a good conference, and it's always, I think, quite useful when it is in Victoria. It's a lot easier to deal with ministry staff there, for sure. Other things when I came back, the critical incident protocol signing, and the Cumberland Rotary Extravaganza Italiana, the Vital Signs launch as referenced, and then last night the CVED's board meeting as I touched on, and I think Councillor Grant touched on as well. Good job getting that signed in. Looks great. So, media questions. After all that. On the word? Okay. No members of the public here left. They report them to tears. So, motion to adjournment would be in order.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned.